Welcome to the Essential Geopolitics podcast from Stratfor, a RAIN company. I'm Emily Donahue. As U.S. President-elect Joe Biden continues his work on a transition to January 20th, there are several questions about how he will differentiate U.S. positions under his administration from those in Donald Trump's. For guidance on how relationships with Middle Eastern nations, including Israel, will change, I turn to Stratfor's Middle East and North Africa analyst, Ryan Bohl. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Emily. Thanks for having me.
Netanyahu and Trump had a very close relationship. Would a Biden presidency mean a major policy shift between Israel and the United States?
It's unlikely that we will see Biden and Netanyahu be quite so personally chummy. And in a certain way, both Netanyahu and Trump had a kind of a political symbiotic relationship where what was good for one was also good for the other. That's not as likely to happen. That is a pretty substantial change from what Israel and the United States have been doing these past few years, in particular with the United States carrying out these pro-Israel policies that really upended some of the long-standing strategies of the United States.
It's not likely that those will be able to be overturned right away, correct?
That's right. Many of the things that President Trump pushed for are likely to be permanent, from the U.S. recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel to the recognition that the Golan Heights is part of Israel. Those are likely to stick around. What is likely to change, however, is that strident pro-Israel tone that would encourage further changes. So things like further expansion of Israel into the West Bank, annexations of settlements there, other actions where Israel might act unilaterally in its own interests and feels assured of American backing, those sorts of things are likely to change. So while there will be a line drawn in the sand in what President Trump has accomplished on behalf of Israel, that will be a line that kind of sits where it is. And we will watch as the Biden administration decides to slow or alter some of these trends that we've been seeing.
Which are some of the trends that you think he would have most success altering?
One of them most likely will be in the area of Iran policy, where President-elect Biden has been signaling that he's prepared to re-enter negotiations and to attempt to re-enter the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal that was negotiated under the Obama administration, which Biden obviously was part of in 2015. That's a notable break from President Trump, who has favored this maximum isolation strategy, this maximum sanctions strategy that attempts to change Iran's behavior through coercion. President-elect Biden is signaling that he'll go back to the negotiating table and try to get a deal going again. That's something that Israel doesn't particularly want to see under the current conditions. They want to see Iran weakened further. They want to see Iran prepared to give up major concessions of both its regional behavior in places like Syria and Lebanon, which clearly border Israel, as well as with Iran's own nuclear program. They want to see Iran committed to defanging that nuclear program so it becomes impossible for it to ever become weaponized. At the moment, we're not anywhere near seeing Tehran prepared to concede on those areas.
Do you think a President Biden foreign policy strategy in this region will create any new friends or make any new enemies?
Well, one of the things we're watching for is what President-elect Biden will do with human rights, which President Trump really put down at the very bottom of the policy barrel. If President-elect Biden decides to make that a priority, it will create frictions with many allies throughout the region, like the Gulf Arabs, the Israelis, and the Turks, all of whom have been able to behave without really considering America's opinion on human rights over these past 4 years. That is a potential area where President-elect Biden could end up injecting some frictions into these long-standing relationships. On the other hand, President-elect Biden may be able to gain some stature amongst some of the Arab states that are seeking more multilateral solutions to the region's problems. Countries like Jordan and Egypt, who favor more of a multilateral approach rather than the unilateral one, especially invigorating institutions like the United Nations, the World Health Organization. Those will be welcome moves amongst some Arab states and some Muslim states in the region.
Thank you so much for that analysis, Ryan.
Thank you, Emily.
Ryan Bohl is a Middle East and North Africa analyst with Stratfor, a RAIN company. You can learn more about Stratfor's intelligence and forecasting on the Middle East region when you sign up for our free newsletter. Visit worldview.stratfor.com. I'm Emily Donahue. Thanks for listening.